I am Diana Smith. I'm a sophomore.
My name is Tommy McFarland. I'm a junior.
My name is Sullivan Blackburn, and I am a sophomore.
Ooh, do I have a favorite poem? I can't say I have a favorite poem, no. Not one in particular that stands out.
So I'm not sure who the author is, but I don't know. It's just a poem. It's called Kings and Queens. So it goes like this. Isn't it strange how queens and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings and common people like you and me are the builders of eternity? Each is given a list of rules, a shapeless mass, a bag of tools, but each must fashion a life his own, a stumbling block or a stepping stone.
Yes, I can't remember the name of it, but it's by Lord Byron. I can't remember what it is though.
I do feel like poetry and acting are connected just because a lot of what we do as actors is breaking down our text into beats, and there's a lot of rhythm behind that, and there's a lot of rhythm to the work that we do with our energy on stage that I think can also be perceived in poetry. Mm-hmm.
Theater hasn't always been about, going to see a show. It hasn't always been about spectacle. In fact, back in Shakespeare's day, the common phrase people would say wasn't "let's go see a show." They would say "let's go hear the show" or "let's hear the play." Yeah, they're definitely connected, and I think they're also connected as an art form too. Poems can have action. A lot of the times if they're about people, and now plays are about the nuances and complexities of people and how they interact, and poems a lot of times do the same thing. So yeah.
In a sense, I know there's like some poetry, like slam poetry and beat poetry, that's like really like you want to get into the emotion of it, and like it's read out loud, it's performed. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a form of acting for sure.
Not entirely, just because poems aren't always, written and shared via performance. They're sometimes just read, and that's sometimes how they stick with us just the same. So I think it's all up to interpretation and which way of receiving that poetry is best for you.
I think so. I think or at least it's key to getting the point across. I think if it's not performed well, on the other hand, it's not gonna carry as much weight. But also just reading poetry also can I think it can still move you as art is supposed to do.
Sometimes I believe that the way the poet reads their own writing gives away a lot about like what the poem truly means, because I know that poems can be confusing, and like if it's read out loud you kind of get a better sense, like based on the way some words are inflected or spoken out loud.
Oh geez. Well, I love words. I just love words in general. So the language of poetry is fascinating to me. All of the different things that you can do to structure, all of the different literary devices that you can use all in one sometimes short piece is just fascinating to me, because I'm also a bit of an English nerd. So it's fun to look into those things, and I'm really big on diction as well. So word choice is super important to me, and sort of the beauty of language. And I feel like poetry is obviously made for that. So
I just think it's I just like just how writers and poets can use language and I don't know, make words sound pretty.
I like how it can be about anything. I like free-form poetry the most because that's the kind I know how to write because there's not any rules. I like how it can just describe an emotion or an experience you've had, and like, I think it's in a way that like you can't express through like just talking to someone about it. It's like
The first thing that I do is I think about my character in context of the play. So I think about what my character's action would be for the play altogether, which would be what my character wants, what my character is trying to get. In some cases, that action could pertain to other characters in the play, which is important to note. In other cases, it could be just for my character. But nonetheless, once I sort of identify my larger action, I can identify what my action is moment to moment or beat to beat, and sort of use that to break down where I stand in a scene or with a certain line.
The first thing you gotta do is you just have to read it. And the way I like to go about it is almost as if you're a designer, and you know, you kind of are. And what designers do, first they just read the play to, you know, understand the action, the plot, and understand just what happens in the play. Then they go through and they look for things that obviously they're going to need to design the show. But in a way, when you're an actor, you're designing a character in a way. It's kind of cheesy, but whatever. So what I do, I read the play first, and then I go back, and a lot of times the director will say, hey, you know, look for these things, and I think the way the directors that I've worked with have really have done well in helping me learn how to analyze lines. So the first thing you got to do is you know, you want to look for what we call action. You know, action is, you know, what actually happens in the play, and you know that this is a concept that seems really easy, like what happens in a play. But you know, when you think about it, and when you think about it in terms of your character and how your character changes, it's, you know, kind of difficult. So yeah, that's what I do. I, you know, go through and you try and assign an active verb to the action of your character to kind of categorize and characterize what your role does.
Well, when I get a script, I read through the whole thing, and it really helps if like you do like a cast-wide read-through where you each just read the lines as they're written. There's no need for any specific acting applied to it yet. And then character development is like my favorite part of acting, and I like kind of put myself in the mindset of my character, like their personality. Are they brash? Are they sweet? Are they shy? Like, how would they react to other people speaking lines?
Sonnet 19, William Shakespeare. Devouring time, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaw, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleets, and do whate'er thou wilt, swift-footed time, to the wide world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one more heinous crime. Oh, carve not with the hours my love's fair brow, nor draw no lines there with thine antique pen. Him in thy course untainted do allow, for beauty's pattern to succeeding men. Yet do thy worst, old time. Despite thy wrong, my love shall in my verse ever live young.
Devouring time, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleets, and do whate'er thou wilt, swift-footed time, to the wide world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one more heinous crime. O crave not with the hours of my love's fair brow, nor draw lines there with thine antique pen. Him in thy course untrained to allow, for beauty's pattern to succeeding men. Yet do thy worst, old time, despite thy wrong. My love shall in my verse ever live young.
Devouring time, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleets, and do whate'er thou wilt, swift-footed time, to the wide world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one more heinous crime. O carve not with the hours my love's fair brow, nor draw no lines with thine antique pen. Him in thy course untainted do allow for beauty's pattern to succeeding men. Yet do thy worst, old time, despite thy wrong. My love shall in my verse ever live young.
Here goes nothing. Devouring time, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleets, and do whate'er thou wilt, swift-footed time, to the wide world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one more heinous crime. Oh, carve not with the hours my love's fair brow, nor draw no lines there with thine antique pen. Him in thy course untainted do allow for beauty's pattern to succeeding men. Yet do thy worst, old time. Despite thy wrong, my love shall in my verse ever live young.
Devouring time, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her brood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleets, and do whatever thou wilt, sweet-footed time, to the wide world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one more heinous crime. Oh, carve not with the hours of my love's fair brow, nor draw lines there with thine unique pen. In him thy course untainted do allow for beauty's pattern to succeeding men. Yet do thy worst, old time, despite thy wrong. My love shall in my verse ever live young.
Devouring time, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleets, and do whate'er thou wilt, swift-footed time, to the wild world and all her fading sweets. But I forbid thee one more heinous crime. Oh, carve not with the hours my love's fair brow, nor draw no lines there with thine antique pen. Him in thy course untainted do allow for beauty's pattern to succeeding men. Yet do thy worst, old time. Despite thy wrong, my love shall in my verse ever live young.